The dish towel is still warm in my hands when Sienna says it. If you don't want to end up in a care facility, pack your things and go. Just like that. No build-up, no conversation. Just a sentence tossed across the kitchen island, like she's reminding me to pick up milk. I turn around slowly, not because I didn't hear her, but because I'm trying to make sense of the words. She's holding a black trash bag, not a suitcase, and she's not even pretending to be gentle about it. This isn't working anymore, Mom, she adds as if we're co-workers parting ways. Marcus's mom is moving in next week. She actually helps. I don't say anything. I just take the bag and nod. My chest is tight, but my hands stay steady. I've always been good at that, staying calm even when the ground shifts. In the next room, I hear her laugh. It's light, almost musical. She's talking to Marcus like nothing happened. Something about a dinner reservation. They've already moved on. I wonder if they planned this together, or if it was just her. I go upstairs past the hallway where I used to tiptoe when my granddaughter was napping. My room still smells like eucalyptus and starch. I fold my things neatly. Blouses I ironed just last week. Slacks I only wore around the house. The blanket I crocheted last winter stays on the bed. It doesn't feel like mine anymore. I slide open the closet. It's nearly empty. I never brought much, just what I needed. That was the deal. Help with the down payment, stay in the guest room. No questions. I reach for my coat. Before I lay it flat, I slip an envelope into the inside pocket. The paper is soft from being handled too many times. The ink faded, but the number is still clear in my mind. I zip up the bag, straighten my spine, and take one last look around the room. No tears. No scene. The zipper closes with a quiet finality. It's strange how sound changes when you know you're not coming back. I press the edges of the bag down, smoothing the fabric, like I used to smooth the blankets over Sienna when she was little. Back then, she would cling to my fingers in her sleep. Now she won't even make eye contact. This was supposed to be temporary. That's what I told myself when I sold my house. It had peeling shutters and a cracked driveway, but it was mine. I let it go for well below market value. Sienna needed help with the down payment here. She said the kids needed a backyard and better schools. I said yes without hesitation. But I was never part of the picture. Not really. She called it the guest room, though I'd been in it for 3 years. No framed photos, no books on the nightstand, no name on the mailbox. When I asked about a spare key, once she laughed and said, "You're always home." What would you need it for last night was when it changed. Or maybe that's when I finally heard it for what it was. We need the space. Marcus's mom is moving in, she said, rinsing a wine glass. She raised 3 boys, you know. You just folded towels. It hit me harder than I thought it would. Not because it was cruel, though it was, but because it was effortless. Like she'd practiced it in her head and finally found the right moment. I didn't defend myself. What would I say? That I sat up with her daughter when she had croup? That I clipped coupons and skipped holidays to help her get through college? That I gave everything and asked for nothing? Instead, I folded one last shirt and tucked it into the side pocket. The air outside is crisp, but I barely feel it. I sit on the stone edge of the garden bed with my bag at my feet. My coat's buttoned tight, the envelope tucked securely where my heart used to race when I wasn't sure how I'd make it through another day in that house. They haven't come to the door again. Not even to check if I left. I hear laughter drift from the window upstairs. Sienna's voice light and unbothered. The door I used to open with my own hands doesn't creak anymore. It shuts cleanly behind people now, and then I hear it. The tires roll up slowly, deliberately. A black limousine, long and spotless, stops right in front of the driveway. The engine quiets and the doors remain closed for a moment that stretches far too long. Sienna flings open the front door, arms crossed, expression already twisted. who she starts, but freezes. The driver steps out, dressed in a dark suit, polished and composed. "Ms. Wynne," he says, with the smallest nod. "We're ready." I stand dust off the bottom of my coat and meet him halfway. I don't glance back. The door opens, and there he is, Reed Halberg. Neatly dressed, same calm eyes, same way of making the world slow down just by being still. I slide into the seat beside him, the warmth inside shocking after the bite of the air. "You remembered," he says softly, watching me settle in. I never forgot I answer. Years ago, at a fundraiser in a small school gym, he pulled me aside after my speech about teacher grants. We shared a sandwich on a metal folding chair, while the others mingled over catered hors d'oeuvres. Before we left, he said, "If they ever make you feel small, call me." Just once. I never did. Not until this morning, when my hands shook, holding the envelope, and I dialed a number I thought I'd buried. He reaches forward and pours tea from a silver thermos. "Let's go home," he says. I nod just as the car pulls away from the curb. The coastline comes into view long before the gates do wide stretches of gray-blue water cliffs, softened by years of wind and a quiet that feels nothing like absence. When the limousine turns down the long drive toward Reed's estate, I brace myself for questions, for the tangled pity people tend to offer when they think they're being kind. But Reed never looks at me that way. He sits with one arm resting on the seat, as if we're simply resuming a conversation paused years ago. The house is modern, but warm, every line thoughtful. Nothing meant to impress. When I step inside, the first thing I notice is the stillness. Not empty, not cold, just still. A place where no one raises their voice to be heard. "You'll stay here as long as you like," Reed says, taking my bag before I can reach for it. He doesn't ask what happened. He doesn't need to. Something in his eyes tells me he already knows enough. He walks me through rooms filled with soft light and bookshelves lined with titles worn at the edges. In the kitchen, the kettle is already steaming, like someone anticipated my arrival. Upstairs, he pauses outside a door and pushes it open. "This is yours." I expect a guest room. Another temporary space. Instead, I find a small office with a wide desk and a clean pane of glass overlooking the water. On the door is a polished nameplate. D. Wynne, co-director. I stare at it for a long moment, unable to speak. "I kept the firm going," he says quietly behind me. "But it needed another mind. I thought, if the day ever came..." His voice trails off unsure for the first time since I stepped into the car. "You never remarried," I say, running my fingers over the engraved letters. He lets out a soft laugh. "Too many women wanted my title. You were the only one who offered to split a sandwich." It's such a simple memory, but it hits harder than anything Sienna said to me. I place my hand on the back of the chair, letting the reality of the room settle into my bones. Reed steps aside, giving me the space to breathe, and I follow him down the hallway toward the room he's prepared for me. A week passes quietly, as if the house itself is teaching me how to breathe again. Reed works from his downstairs office, and I spend my mornings with a cup of tea overlooking the water, letting the sound settle into the spaces Sienna's voice used to echo. I'm not sure when the ache fades, only that one morning I wake up and realize I didn't think of the guest room at all. The letter arrives that afternoon. The housekeeper brings it to me on a small tray the way one might deliver something delicate. I recognize my lawyer's handwriting before I even break the seal. For a moment, I consider setting it aside. Every letter from that man has always carried some sort of weight, but something in the pit of my stomach tells me to open it. Inside is a copy of the contract from the sale of my old house. My signature sits at the bottom, steadier than I remember my hand being then. Attached is a typed summary from my lawyer. He underlined one line in red. Shared living clause, the seller retains right of residence unless willingly vacated. I lean back slowly, exhaling. I remember adding that clause at the last minute more out of habit than fear. My husband always insisted on protective wording when we signed anything, and the lawyer suggested it just in case circumstances changed. I never imagined it would matter. I trusted my daughter. I believed I'd stay until I chose to leave, but I didn't choose. I read the next paragraph. Your removal was involuntary. This constitutes a breach of the shared living clause and triggers automatic reversion of ownership to the seller. Documentation is enclosed. The words settle over me like dust, quiet but permanent. The house Sienna pushed me out of my home, the one I sacrificed so much for, is legally mine again. I fold the letter and place it on the desk beside the nameplate Reed gave me. The contrast makes me pause. One life fading behind me, another forming ahead. Downstairs, I hear Reed calling my name, his voice steady, inviting, and I take the letter with me as I go to meet him. The house smells the same. Faint lemon from the floor polish Sienna always insisted on, though she never cleaned it herself. I walk through it slowly, letting my footsteps echo a little louder than necessary. No one is home. I told the lawyer I just needed 15 minutes to collect the last of my things before we initiated the transfer. I head upstairs, bypass the main bedroom, and pause outside the door that used to be mine. It's not a guest room anymore, just boxes now. Old decorations, stacked chairs, tubs of outgrown baby clothes, every trace of me shoved out in plastic bins and forgotten corners. I bend down to pick up a cardigan I'd left behind. That's when I see it. Something crumpled in the trash can by the desk. A corner of thick paper torn unevenly. Not curiosity, just instinct makes me pull it out. My name is printed neatly across the top. Lease agreement. Vehicle financing. Lessee Delora Wynn. I blink once, then twice. The model listed is a luxury SUV. Not modest. Not affordable. And the monthly payment, laughable. More than I spent in groceries some months. I flip the page. There's a signature at the bottom. My name, my handwriting. Almost. But it's wrong. Slanted too far, the curl on the D too high. They tried, but they didn't know I always loop my Y backwards. I feel nothing. Not rage, not even surprise. Just a dull recognition that the eviction wasn't personal. It was strategic. They needed space for Marcus's mother, sure, but they also needed a name to hide behind, a credit score to bleed dry. And they knew I wouldn't fight. I take out my phone, a quick scan of each page. Clear photos. I slide the torn paper back exactly as I found it. I want them to believe it's still forgotten. Still safe. I walk downstairs with the same steady steps I entered, with no sign anything changed. But everything has. Because now I'm not just a mother who was used. I'm a witness who remembers where the paper was buried. The sun is lower now as I step back into Reed's waiting car. The table is small, round, and set for 4. Reed opens a bottle of wine I've never heard of, and I unfold the linen napkin across my lap with a steadiness I didn't know I still had. The guest list isn't long, just Reed, myself, my estate attorney, and Reed's CFO, a quiet woman named Lisette, who watches everything and says very little. No one mentions Sienna. No one has to. The meal is light. Simple roast chicken, soft root vegetables, a salad with crisp apples. But it feels heavier than any holiday I've attended in years. Not because of the food, but because of what's waiting just beside my plate, tucked neatly in a leather folder. After dessert, a pear tart not too sweet, I open it. My attorney nods. The trust is finalized. The house is no longer in her name. Reed pours more tea. No one raises a glass. This isn't a toast. Lisette slides another page forward. You have full legal authority to reclaim possession, she says, or to leave it idle. The trust protects you either way. I run my fingers along the edge of the document. The ink is fresh, but the decision is not. I don't need to evict her. I don't need to call, to warn, to explain. I don't even need to show up. I just sign. There's a strange silence, after the kind that doesn't beg to be filled. Reed reaches across and takes the folder, closing it gently, like the last page of a long story. The chair across from me is empty. Sienna isn't here. She hasn't called. She hasn't asked where I went or how I'm doing. Part of me wonders if she even remembers the clause, the sale, the trust, if she ever read the fine print. But that's the thing about paper. It doesn't need to raise its voice. It just waits. Reed helps me into my coat as the evening draws to a close, and I step outside. The air cool against my skin, already knowing what I'll do next. The call comes from the front gate. Reed answers it himself. I see his expression change, not angry, just quiet. He turns to me, not asking, just informing. It's her. I already know who he means. Sienna stands just beyond the wrought iron, bundled in a coat too thin for the cold. Her eyes are wide, her voice shaky as the intercom crackles. Mom, please. Can we talk? Reed steps aside. He knows this is mine to handle. I walk down the gravel path alone. She watches me approach, arms folded tight across her chest, like she's trying to hold herself together. The bags under her eyes look deeper than they did last month. Her voice trembles. Marcus left, she blurts. He just packed up and went. Took what was his and didn't look back. I don't react. I wait. And the SUV, they came for it yesterday. The bank said your name wasn't valid anymore. They said the title's being reviewed. Her voice breaks on the last word. I let her talk. We were stressed. You know how hard things got. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just needed space. Marcus said it was temporary. She stops searching my face. I didn't mean to hurt you. The words hang between us like cold air. I nod slowly. I believe you didn't mean to. But you still did. She steps forward. Can we just talk, figure something out? I don't move. You made a choice. I did too. I see it hit her, not just the consequence, but the finality. She came here hoping for softness, a reset, maybe a hug, maybe even a key. But what she finds is a locked gate and a mother who no longer lives on hope. I'm not angry, I say, but I'm not coming back. She doesn't cry. She just nods, lips pressed tight. Maybe she didn't expect forgiveness. Maybe she just wanted to be heard. I turn away first, walking back up the path. Behind me, the gate clicks shut with a soft sound that feels more like peace than punishment. The front door still creaks when I push it open. Some things never change, even when the people inside do. The scent is different, now emptier, almost sterile. Marcus is gone, just as Sienna said, and she's been sleeping in the upstairs room alone. The dining table is cluttered with unopened mail, a single coffee mug, and a vase of wilting flowers. I step over a laundry basket in the hallway, half full. It doesn't feel like a home anymore, just a structure. I walk through each room without a word. I don't bring boxes. I don't measure for curtains or open the kitchen drawers like I might settle in again. I'm not here to return. I'm here to remember, and maybe quietly, to reshape. In the front bedroom, the one they always called the guest space, I stop. I sit on the edge of the bed and run my hand along the bare mattress. Then I rise open the closet and begin again. Not for me, for someone else. 2 weeks later, the room is transformed. A new twin bed with clean sheets. A small bookshelf. A basket with slippers and hand lotion. A laminated card on the dresser reads, "Welcome. Stay as long as you need." I've spoken with a local shelter network. They'll refer women who've aged out of services, those left behind, overlooked or quietly dismissed by their own families. They'll come here for a while, just one at a time, just until they find their footing. The co-occupancy clause remains. It always will. But I've added a new one to the property trust. Respect is required. Not requested. Required. I stand in the doorway of the finished room holding a folded towel in my hands. The kind I used to stack neatly on the shelf for Sienna, always hoping it meant something. Now it does. But not for her, for someone who needs it. For someone who still believes in doors that open. I set the towel down, straighten the corners, and turn off the light as I make my way back out into the hallway. The waves roll in slow and steady, tracing long lines of foam across the sand. Reed stands beside me, hands tucked into his coat pockets, watching the horizon as if it's speaking to him. Maybe it is. Out here, silence has a way of saying more than people ever manage. I have something for you, he says. Reaching into his coat, he places a small brass key in my palm. It's warm from his pocket, lighter than it looks. It's not to a house, he adds, almost smiling. It's to the studio out back. The one I never finished because I didn't know what to make of it. Now I do. I close my fingers around it. And what am I supposed to make of it? Whatever you want, he says simply. It's yours. I look at him, then back at the water. For a moment, I feel something I haven't felt in years, a sense of beginning, not returning, beginning. Later that afternoon, the housekeeper brings me a letter. My name is written in Sienna's handwriting, shaky, smudged at the edges. I take it upstairs to my room, sit at the small desk Reed placed near the window, and open it slowly. Sienna apologizes. She talks about stress, fear, pressure, regret. She tells me she misses me, that the house feels colder without someone folding towels for her, without someone humming in the kitchen. It's a painful kind of honesty, the kind that arrives only when everything else has failed. I fold the letter once then again. I don't cry. I don't reply. Instead, I walk to the dresser and slide it into the top drawer, placing it beside a framed picture of myself at 40 hair, wind-blown hands tucked into my pockets, smiling like I didn't yet know how small I would let myself become. I didn't lose my life, I whisper. Closing the drawer, I just left the wrong room. Outside, Reed calls my name, his voice steady as the tide. I slip the brass key into my pocket and head toward the back of the house, ready to see what waits behind the studio door.